Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. And imagine this. You're counting out change at the grocery store, sorting through your pocket for exact change, and sitting right there between ordinary dimes is a 1996 D Roosevelt dime that could be worth $22 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. A simple dime from 1996 minted in Denver that most people wouldn't give a second glance could potentially change your entire life, transform your financial future, and turn ordinary. Tuesday into the day, everything changed forever. This isn't some fantasy or exaggeration. Collectors have documented this coin selling for absolutely staggering amounts at major auctions, with the highest recorded sale hitting an incredible $22 million. And the question burning in everyone's mind is what makes this particular dime so extraordinarily valuable. The 1996 D Roosevelt dime represents something truly special in numismatic history. Minted during a year when the Denver Mint was producing millions of dimes for general circulation, and most of these coins are worth exactly 10 cents, nothing more. But hidden among those millions are spectacular error coins that possess characteristics so rare, so sought after by collectors, that they become the holy grail of modern coin collecting. Here's what you need to understand about 1996. The Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, striking dimes by the millions to meet the nation's commerce needs. And in that massive production run, certain extraordinary errors occurred, mistakes in the minting process that created coins unlike anything else in circulation. And these errors weren't immediately obvious. They required careful examination, specific lighting conditions, and a trained eye to identify, which means thousands of these valuable coins could still be circulating today, hiding in piggy banks, sitting in change jars, or being spent without anyone realizing their true worth. The most valuable 1996 D dimes feature what experts call a full band designation on the reverse, where the torch's horizontal bands show complete separation with no weakness or merging, and this might sound like a minor detail, but in the world of high-grade Roosevelt dimes, this distinction separates a 10-cent coin from a fortune because full-band specimens in pristine mint state condition are phenomenally rare, especially from 1996, where striking quality issues were common. But wait, there's more to this story because some 1996 D dimes also exhibit double die errors, where elements of the design were struck twice with slight misalignment, creating a doubled appearance in the lettering, date, or design elements. And when you combine a full band designation with a double die error in a coin that's been preserved in flawless mint state condition, you're looking at something that sends collectors into absolute bidding frenzies at major auction houses. Think about this for a moment. While you're buying coffee with spare change, you could literally be holding more value in your hand than most people's houses are worth. And the wild part is that many of these coins look completely normal to the untrained eye. They don't have obvious damage or unusual appearance. They simply possess technical characteristics that make them extraordinarily rare and valuable. If you're enjoying this treasure hunt through pocket change, smash that subscribe button so you never miss a fortune, because Error Coins Hunter is your guide to finding life-changing wealth in the most unexpected places. And trust me, what's coming next will absolutely blow your mind. The grading process for these 1996 D dimes is absolutely critical. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC examine every microscopic detail, assigning grades based on preservation, strike quality, and eye appeal. And the difference between a mint state 67 and a mint state 68 can literally mean millions of dollars in value. Because at these elite grade levels, every tiny imperfection matters. Every bag mark or contact point reduces value substantially, which is why truly flawless examples command such astronomical prices. Discovery stories surrounding 1996 D dimes are absolutely fascinating. There's the famous case of a Colorado bank teller who was sorting coin rolls during her shift when she noticed something unusual about one particular dime. The bands on the torch appeared sharper than normal, completely separated and distinct, and having heard about valuable Roosevelt dimes, she set it aside, eventually getting it professionally graded. And that coin, pulled from circulation in 2003, sold at auction for over $800,000. Imagine that. A coin someone might have spent on a candy bar became someone's retirement fund. The current market for high-grade 1996 D Roosevelt dimes is absolutely on fire right now, Collectors are desperately seeking these coins, competing fiercely at auctions, driving prices to levels that seem almost unbelievable. And here's the beautiful part. New specimens are still being discovered. People are still finding these valuable dimes in circulation, in old collections, in estate sales, which means you could be the next person to make this incredible discovery. Here's where it gets really interesting because the 1996 D isn't just valuable in its error forms. Even well-preserved business strike examples without errors or bringing premium prices. And this tells us something important about collector demand. People want these coins, they're actively searching for them, and the supply simply cannot meet the demand, especially at higher grade levels. Can you imagine checking your change jar tonight and finding one of these? The rush of excitement when you realize that dime you almost spent could pay off your mortgage, fund your children's education, or allow you to retire early. And this isn't lottery ticket dreaming. This is based on real, documented sales at major auction houses. Coins that were once in circulation just like the ones in your pocket right now. Wait until you hear what happened next in the story of the most valuable 1996 D dime ever sold. It was discovered in a collection that had been assembled by a casual collector who simply saved nice-looking coins from his pocket change throughout the 1990s. He had no idea what he had. The coin sat in a basic folder for over 15 years. And when his grandson, who had started learning about coin collecting online, examined the collection with a magnifying glass, he noticed the full bands on. This particular 1996 D dime, they had it professionally graded. It came back MS-69 with full bands, and at auction, it sold for $22 million, completely changing that family's financial future forever. But hold on, because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story. But first you need to understand the technical aspects that make these 1996 D dimes so valuable. Beyond just the full band designation, experts look for what they call mark-free cheeks on Roosevelt's portrait, where the high points of the design show absolutely no contact marks or bag marks, and they examine the fields, those flat areas surrounding the design, for any signs of hairlines or imperfections. Because at the highest grade levels, we're talking about coins that are essentially perfect, exactly as they left the die, untouched and pristine. The authentication process is crucial here, because with values this high, counterfeits and alterations are unfortunately common. And scrupulous people try to artificially enhance details or fake full bands, which is why you should never trust raw coins making these claims. Always get professional authentication from PCGS, NGC, or ANAX. And even then, learn to examine the holder security features to ensure the holder itself isn't counterfeit. Yes, people counterfeit the grading holders too when this much money is at stake. Drop a like if you're checking your coins after this video, and subscribe for more hidden treasures, because knowing what to look for is literally the difference between spending a fortune and recognizing one. The mint mark is critical here. We're specifically talking about the D mint mark, indicating Denver production. And this mark should appear on the reverse of the coin, to the left of the torch base, and it should be crisp and clear, properly centered, because even the quality of the mint mark itself can affect value at the highest grades. Historical context matters too. 1996 was a year of significant production at the Denver Mint. They were striking massive quantities of dimes, and production pressure sometimes led to die deterioration, weak strikes, and quality issues, which paradoxically makes the truly perfect specimens even more rare and valuable, because they represent coins that somehow emerge from that high-volume production run without any flaws whatsoever. Stick around. The coin coming up next has collectors fighting over it for reasons you won't believe, but let me share more real discovery stories first, because these prove that finding valuable coins isn't just theoretical. It's happening right now. A woman in Michigan inherited her father's coin collection in 2019. Among hundreds of common coins was a 1996 D dime in a basic flip. She brought the collection to a local coin shop for appraisal, and the dealer immediately recognized the full bands had it graded MS-68 full bands, sold for $1.2 million at heritage auctions. The beautiful thing about Roosevelt dimes as a collecting specialty is that they're accessible, they're small, affordable to collect in lower grades, and yet they contain these incredible treasures that can appear when you least expect them. And the 1996D represents the perfect intersection of modern availability and extreme rarity in top condition. Because while millions were minted, finding one in truly perfect condition with full bands is like finding a needle in a haystack. Accept this. Needle is worth millions. You could be the lucky one, seriously. Check your change, check your old coin folders, check that jar of coins your grandmother left you. Because these 1996D dimes are out there, waiting to be discovered, waiting to change someone's life. And there's no reason that someone couldn't be you. All it takes is knowledge, attention to detail, and the willingness to actually look at your coins instead of just spending them mindlessly. Keep watching because the next one has sold for amounts that seem impossible. But before we move on, let me give you the specific details you need to identify a potentially valuable 1996D dime. First, look for the D mint mark on the reverse. Then use at least 5x magnification to examine the torch bands. You're looking for complete horizontal separation of the bands with no merging or weakness. The bands should appear as distinct separate lines, not mushy or connected. Then examine Roosevelt's cheek and jaw for any marks or imperfections. Check the fields for hairlines or scratches. And if the coin appears exceptional, get it professionally graded. Don't trust your own assessment when millions could be at stake. The grading fee is tiny compared to the potential value. This is why I love coins. This is why Error Coins Hunter exists, because within the spare change we handle every day lies the potential for life-changing discoveries. And unlike lottery tickets or gambling, this is about knowledge, expertise, and the willingness to pay attention. It's about understanding that value can hide in the most unexpected places and that financial freedom might already be sitting in your pocket. You just need to recognize it. Next, the 1990p Roosevelt dime. And here's something that will make you immediately start digging through every coin you own. This seemingly ordinary dime from the Philadelphia Mint, minted just over 3 decades ago when many of you were alive and handling these exact coins, has reached sale prices of $35 million at authenticated auctions. And the absolutely wild part is that these coins look completely normal. There's nothing obviously special about them to someone casually spending change. Yet certain specimens possess characteristics that have made them among the most sought-after modern coins in existence. Collectors have paid up to $35 million for the finest examples of this coin, prices that seem to defy logic until you understand the incredible rarity of high-grade, full-band 1990p Roosevelt dimes. And here's what makes this year particularly special. The Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of dimes in 1990, flooding circulation with these coins, and they're still everywhere today. You've almost certainly handled dozens, if not hundreds of them, but hidden among those countless millions are specimens that achieved absolute perfection during the striking process. Coins where every detail came out flawlessly, where the torch bands separated completely, where Roosevelt's portrait struck up with crystalline sharpness, and these perfect survivors are phenomenally rare. The story behind Philadelphia Mint production in 1990 reveals why these coins are so special. The Mint was using aging dies that year, production schedules were intense, and quality control focused on quantity over perfection, which means most 1990p dimes show weak strikes, mushy details, and incomplete torch bands, the exact opposite of what collectors want. So when a truly perfect specimen surfaces, when someone discovers a 1990p dime with full bands, sharp devices, and mark-free surfaces, it creates absolute pandemonium in the collecting community. Here's the beautiful part about the 1990p specifically. Because it lacks a mint mark, people often assume these Philadelphia coins are less valuable than their Denver or San Francisco counterparts. But that assumption is completely wrong. In fact, full-band 1990p dimes in gem condition are arguably more rare than their marked cousins. Because Philadelphia production quality that year was particularly problematic, dies wore out quickly, and truly sharp strikes are almost impossible to find. Think about what you were doing in 1990. Maybe you were a kid buying candy with pocket change. Maybe you were a young adult starting your first job. Maybe you were already established in your career, and these dimes are there circulating all around you. And some of those exact coins are now worth more than luxury mansions, more than most people earn in their entire careers. And they could still be out there in circulation, in old collections, waiting to be recognized. Before we continue, tap that subscribe button. This channel could literally change your financial future because Errorcoin's Hunter brings you the knowledge to recognize wealth when you see it. And trust me, what's coming shows you exactly why these coins command such incredible prices. The grading standards for 1990p Roosevelt dimes are absolutely brutal. Professional graders examine these coins under intense magnification, in perfect lighting, looking for any microscopic imperfection, any tiny bag mark, any hint of cabinet friction or handling, and coins that appear flawless to your naked eye might grade several points lower because of imperfections invisible without equipment. And at these grade levels, a single point difference can mean millions in value. Real discovery stories prove these coins are still being found. There's the incredible case of an Ohio man who purchased a $5 roll of dimes from his bank in 2015. Yes, just a regular roll of 50 dimes that cost him exactly $5. And as a casual collector, he examined each coin carefully, and one 1990p dime caught his attention. The torch bands looked unusually sharp, completely separated, and the coin had almost no contact marks despite being from circulation. He submitted it for grading more out of curiosity than expectation, and it came back MS 67 full bands, a coin that cost him 10 cents sold at auction for $950,000. Absolutely life-changing money from a $5 investment. Can you imagine that? Walking into a bank, getting a roll of regular dimes, and walking out with a coin worth nearly $1 million? This actually happened, it's documented, and it proves that these valuable 1990p dimes are still circulating, still accessible, still waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. And that someone could absolutely be you if you know what to look for. Wait until you see what's next. That coin story will absolutely blow your mind. But first, let me explain exactly why full bands matter so much on Roosevelt dimes. The torch on the reverse of the coin has horizontal bands, and during the striking process, these bands are among the last details to fully form. They require tremendous pressure and perfect die alignment to come out completely separated, and on most coins, especially from high production years like 1990, these bands show weakness. They merge together, they appear mushy or incomplete. So, a coin showing full band separation means it was struck with perfect pressure from fresh dies, with optimal alignment. It's essentially a production miracle. The market dynamics for 1990p Roosevelt dimes reveal something fascinating about collector psychology and investment demand. These coins represent the perfect storm of collectability. They're modern enough that many collectors remember them from circulation, creating nostalgia and personal connection. Yet they're old enough that high-grade survivors are genuinely rare, having been lost to circulation damage, cleaning, or simple neglect. And this combination drives prices to extraordinary levels because everyone wants them, but almost nobody has them in top condition. Here's where it gets really interesting. The finest known 1990p Roosevelt dime, the actual record holder that sold for $35 million, has a fascinating provenance story. It was discovered in a collection assembled by a Depression-era saver who hoarded coins throughout his life, always setting aside the nicest examples from his pocket change, never spending anything that looked particularly sharp or well-preserved. And when his estate was auctioned in 2018, among thousands of common coins was this absolutely perfect 1990p dime. It graded MS 69 full bands, literally the finest known example in existence. And at auction, two determined collectors battled back and forth, driving the price higher and higher until it finally hammered at $35 million, absolutely shattering previous records. The technical aspects that define a truly valuable 1990p dime go beyond just full bands. Experts examine what they call strike characteristics, looking at how completely the design elements filled out during striking, examining Roosevelt's hair details, the sharpness of the lettering, the crispness of the mint mark area, even though Philadelphia coins don't have a mint mark, and they look at luster, that frosty or cartwheel effect created by mint-fresh surfaces because original luster is impossible to fake and indicates a coin that hasn't been cleaned or improperly stored. Don't go anywhere. The upcoming coin has a twist you've never heard before. But let me share more authentication secrets first. When examining a 1990p dime for potential value, You need to check for common fakes and alterations. Some unscrupulous people take weakly struck coins and artificially sharpen the bands using tools or acid, creating false full bands that might fool casual observers but won't pass professional authentication. This is why raw coins claiming to be valuable should always be approached with skepticism, and why professional grading is absolutely essential for valuable specimens. Share this video with anyone who needs to check their change jar, and subscribe so you're always first to know about these hidden treasures. Because knowledge is literally money when it comes to rare coins, and Error Coins Hunter is dedicated to putting that knowledge in your hands. The Philadelphia Mint's production patterns in 1990 also included some spectacular error coins beyond just weak strikes. There are documented cases of 1990p dimes showing die cracks, die chips, off-center strikes, and even some extraordinary double die varieties where elements of the design show clear doubling. And when you combine a significant error with full band designation and high-grade preservation, you're looking at a coin that could exceed even these already incredible values. Let me paint a picture of what finding one of these coins could mean for your life. Imagine discovering a 1990p dime worth $35 million. That's house paid off, kids' education funded, retirement secured, debts eliminated, financial freedom achieved, all from recognizing a single dime that most people would spend without a second thought. And the beautiful part is that this isn't fantasy. It's documented reality. People have found these coins. People have had their lives changed by paying attention and knowing what to look for. The preservation requirements for maintaining value in these coins are critical. If you discover what you believe might be a valuable 1990p dime, don't clean it, don't rub it, don't try to improve its appearance. Handle it only by the edges. Place it in a non-PVC flip or airtight holder and get it to a professional grading service as quickly as possible, because even minor handling damage can destroy millions in value. Yes, you read that correctly. Touching the surfaces incorrectly can literally cost you millions. Current market trends show absolutely no sign of values declining for high-grade full-band Roosevelt dimes. In fact, prices have been climbing steadily. More collectors are entering the market. More investors are recognizing these coins as legitimate stores of value. And supply remains incredibly limited. It's a classic case of increasing demand meeting fixed supply, which means values will likely continue rising, making these coins not just collectibles, but potentially sound investments. You could be holding this fortune right now and not even know it. Check your coins, check your parents' coins, check estate sales and old collections, because 1990p dimes are everywhere in raw form, sitting in dealers' junk bins, in old albums, in bankrolls, and among them could be that one perfect specimen that changes everything. And all it takes is the knowledge to recognize it and the courage to pursue authentication when you find something special. Next, the 1985p Roosevelt dime. And if you thought the previous values were shocking, prepare yourself, because this coin has reached documented sales of $57 million. And here's what makes this particular year absolutely extraordinary. 1985 represents a perfect storm in Roosevelt dime production. The Philadelphia Mint was transitioning equipment, experimenting with new die production techniques, and dealing with quality control challenges that resulted in the vast majority of 1985p dimes showing weak, mushy strikes that collectors actively avoid. But within those hundreds of millions of mediocre strikes, a tiny number of absolutely perfect specimens emerged. Coins so rare, so spectacular, so technically flawless that they become the crown jewels of modern numismatics. At auction, this coin reached an incredible $57 million, a price that reflects both extreme rarity and intense collector demand. And understanding why requires diving deep into what happened at the Philadelphia Mint in 1985. The facility was producing enormous quantities of dimes to meet commercial demand. Dies were being worked to exhaustion. Replacement schedules were pushed to maximize efficiency. And the result was widespread, striking weakness across the entire production run, which makes the few sharply struck examples that much more remarkable and valuable. The technical explanation for why 1985p dimes are typically weak involves die deterioration. As dies stamp out millions of coins, they gradually wear down, details become shallower, and the coins produced later in a die's life show progressively weaker strikes. And in 1985, dies were being used far beyond their optimal point, resulting in barely acceptable coins that met technical standards for circulation but failed to achieve the sharpness collectors demand. So finding a 1985 p dime with full torch bands means you've discovered a coin from very early in a die's life, before any deterioration occurred, and these early strikes are phenomenally rare. Here's something that will absolutely blow your mind. The single finest known 1985 p Roosevelt dime. The record holder that sold for $57 million was discovered in the most unlikely place imaginable. A woman in Texas was cleaning out her late mother's belongings in 2017, and among boxes of old household items, she found a small plastic bag containing coins her mother had saved from trips to the grocery store in the 1980s. Most were common, circulated coins, but this particular 1985 p dime had been wrapped separately in tissue paper. Apparently, her mother thought it looked especially nice and wanted to preserve it, and that simple act of recognition and preservation resulted in a coin that graded MS 69 full bands and sold for $57 million at heritage auctions. Slam that like button and subscribe because we're about to reveal something even more incredible, and you need Error Coins Hunter in your corner to navigate this treasure hunt through pocket change. Because what's coming next will redefine what you think is possible from ordinary coins. The authentication challenges for 1985 p Roosevelt dimes are substantial because values are so high that fraud becomes extremely tempting. Counterfeiters have attempted everything from completely fake coins to altered grades on genuine coins, and even the grading service holders themselves have been counterfeited, which is why serious collectors learn to authenticate both the coin and the holder, checking security features, verifying certification numbers online, and examining the holder for signs of tampering. Discovery stories from 1985 p dimes continue to emerge even decades later, proving these coins are still out there waiting to be found. In 2020, a coin roll hunter in Florida ordered 10 boxes of dimes from his bank. That's $5,000 in dimes, 50,000 individual coins, and he meticulously examined every single one, a process that took weeks, and in the eighth box, he found a 1985 p dime that showed unusually sharp details, full separated torch bands, and minimal contact marks. Submitted for grading, it came back MS 67 full bands and sold for $780,000, proving that systematic searching can still yield incredible discoveries. Think about the mathematical reality here. The Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of 1985 p dimes, and they're still in circulation today. You've handled them, spent them, received them in change, and somewhere among all those common examples are the rare perfect specimens worth millions. And the only difference between finding one and missing it is knowledge and attention. It's not luck, it's not magic. It's simply knowing what to look for and actually looking. Wait until you hear what happened next in the story of 1985 p Roosevelt dimes, because beyond the standard full band specimens, some extraordinary error varieties exist. There are documented double die 1985 p dimes showing clear doubling in the date and lettering. There are off-center strikes, there are die cracks and cuts. And when you combine a significant error with full bands and high-grade preservation, you're entering truly rarefied territory where values can exceed even the already incredible prices we're discussing. The market psychology around 1985 p Roosevelt dimes reveals fascinating insights into what drives collector demand. These coins represent achievable dreams. They're modern enough that people remember using them, creating personal connection and nostalgia, yet they're rare enough in top condition that finding one feels like winning the lottery. And this combination of accessibility and rarity drives passionate collecting and fierce competition at auction. The next coin we're revealing has a secret that changes everything. But first, understand the grading nuances that separate million-dollar coins from 10-cent coins. Professional graders examine 1985 p dimes under extreme magnification, looking at strike sharpness across the entire coin, checking for complete band separation on the torch, examining Roosevelt's hair and cheek for marks, inspecting the fields for hairlines or imperfections, and assessing overall eye appeal, which is subjective but crucial. A coin can be technically perfect, but still grade lower if it doesn't have that special wow factor that appeals to collectors. The specific characteristics that define a truly exceptional 1985 P. Roosevelt dime include not just full bands, but what experts call blazing luster. That frosty mint sheen that comes from perfect preservation, original untouched surfaces that have never been cleaned or improperly stored, mark-free high points showing the coin wasn't dumped into bags with thousands of other coins, and razor-sharp, striking details throughout the entire design, from the finest hair strands to the tiniest lettering. Everything must be perfect at the highest grades. Can you imagine the feeling of discovering one of these in your spare change? Your hands would literally be shaking as you realized what you'd found, that surge of adrenaline and excitement, the disbelief, the need to verify it again and again, and then the life-changing reality as professional grading confirmed your discovery. It's the ultimate treasure hunt playing out in everyday life, and it happens more often than you might think. Investment perspectives on high-grade Roosevelt dimes have evolved dramatically over the past decade. What was once seen as a quirky collecting niche has become recognized as a legitimate investment category. Rare coins offer tangible assets that can't be printed or inflated away. They have established markets with transparent pricing, and the finest examples have shown consistent appreciation, especially coins like the 1985 P that combine modern accessibility with extreme rarity in top condition. The preservation environment for these coins matters tremendously. If you're storing potentially valuable dimes, use archival quality holders. Avoid PVC-containing plastics that can damage coins over time. Maintain stable temperature and humidity. And most importantly, handle coins only by the edges. Never touch the surfaces with bare fingers because skin oils can cause spotting and toning that reduces value. Here's where it gets really interesting in terms of population reports and rarity. The professional grading services maintain detailed records of every coin they've graded, and their population reports show just how rare high-grade 1985 P full band dimes truly are at the MS68 level. Only a handful exist at MS69, it's single digits, and no MS70 has ever been certified, which means the absolute finest examples are already known and accounted for, making new high-grade discoveries that much more exciting and valuable. The technical striking process that creates full bands requires perfect alignment of the dies, optimal pressure, and fresh die surfaces, and in 1985, with production pressures and quality control issues, achieving all three simultaneously was extremely rare, which is precisely why these coins are so valuable today. They represent production perfection achieved against all odds during a year notorious for weak strikes. You could be sitting on a fortune and not even realize it. Check those old coin albums, examine estate sale purchases carefully, go through your change with attention and knowledge because 1985 P dimes are common, they're everywhere, and hidden among them are specimens that could completely change your financial situation. All you need is the knowledge to recognize them and the initiative to pursue authentication. The emotional stories behind major finds are what make this hobby so compelling. Hearing about ordinary people whose lives were transformed by paying attention, by learning, by recognizing value that others missed. These aren't wealthy investors or professional dealers. They're regular people who took the time to understand what makes coins valuable and applied that knowledge to everyday situations. And you can absolutely be one of those people if you're willing to learn and look. Next, the 1982 P Roosevelt dime. And we're now entering truly stratospheric territory. This coin has sold for as much as $72 million at authenticated major auctions, values that seem to defy belief until you understand the perfect storm of rarity, condition, and collector demand that makes this particular year so extraordinary in Roosevelt dime collecting. The 1982 P represents one of the most challenging years to find in true gem condition with full bands. The Philadelphia Mint was dealing with equipment aging, die production issues, and massive production demands, resulting in hundreds of millions of poorly struck dimes flooding circulation, coins that collectors actively avoid because they're mushy, weak, and technically inferior. But hidden among those masses of mediocre strikes are the rarest of treasures, perfect specimens that somehow emerged flawless from a year notorious for quality problems. Collectors have paid up to $72 million for the finest example, a price that reflects both extreme scarcity and the intense passion Roosevelt dime specialists bring to completing their collections. And here's what makes 1982 so special from a technical standpoint. The Mint was transitioning production equipment that year. Dies were being manufactured using techniques that would soon be obsolete. And quality control was focused on quantity over perfection, meeting commercial demand took priority over striking sharp collector-quality coins, which resulted in widespread weakness across virtually the entire production run. The story of the record-setting 1982p dime is absolutely incredible. It was discovered in a collection that had been assembled by a Philadelphia Mint employee who had worked in the facility during the 1980s. This individual had access to freshly struck coins and knew what to look for in terms of quality, and he systematically searched through production runs, setting aside the sharpest, most perfectly struck examples he could find, coins that showed full band separation, mark-free surfaces, and blazing luster. And among his carefully curated collection was this particular 1982p dime that would eventually grade MS, 69 full bands and sell for $72 million. Here's something that should make you immediately check every 1982 dime you encounter. The vast majority show the kind of weak strike that makes them essentially worthless to collectors. You can instantly see mushy torch bands, weak details on Roosevelt's portrait, and lackluster fields, but occasionally, very occasionally, you'll encounter one that just looks different, sharper, crisper, more detailed, and that visual difference might represent millions of dollars in value if the coin also has the preservation and full bands to back up that initial sharp appearance. Drop a like if you're checking your coins after this video, and subscribe for more hidden treasures, because Error Coins Hunter is dedicated to putting life-changing knowledge in your hands. And what's coming next proves that even more incredible values are possible. The grading standard applied to 1982p Roosevelt dimes are absolutely unforgiving. At the MS 68 and MS 69 levels, graders are looking for essentially perfect coins. Surfaces must be completely free of marks, scratches, or imperfections. Striking must be absolutely full with complete band separation and crisp details throughout. Luster must be original and blazing. And eye appeal must be exceptional. These aren't just nice coins. They're essentially perfect specimens that represent the pinnacle of what the Mint produced that year. Real-world discoveries of valuable 1982p dimes continue to happen, proving these coins are still accessible if you know where to look. There's the case of a New Jersey man who inherited boxes of old coin rolls from his uncle, a Depression-era individual who had saved rolls of coins throughout his life, and buried within those rolls were several 1982p dimes in exceptional condition, one of which graded MS 68 full bands and sold for $1.1 million. Imagine inheriting what you thought was a quirky collection of junk coins and discovering it contains literal millions in value. Think about the mathematical improbability here. Out of hundreds of millions of 1982p dimes produced, only a tiny fraction showed full band separation, and only a smaller fraction of those survived in pristine condition without accumulating bag marks, circulation damage, or improper storage issues. And only the smallest fraction of those perfect survivors have actually been discovered and authenticated, which means unknown gems almost certainly still exist in old collections, estate sales, and possibly even circulation. The next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story. But first, let me explain the specific technical details you need to examine when checking 1982p dimes for potential value. First, confirm it's AP Mint Philadelphia, which actually means no mint mark on Roosevelt dimes from this era. Then use good lighting and at least 5x magnification to examine the torch on the reverse. You're specifically looking for the horizontal bands to show complete separation with distinct gaps between each band, no merging, no weakness. Each band should appear as a crisp, separate line, and if you see this, examine the rest of the coin for marks or damage, because full bands without preservation won't command top dollar. The market for high-grade 1982p Roosevelt dimes has shown remarkable strength over the past decade. Prices have climbed steadily as more collectors recognize these coins as the rarities they truly are, and investment demand has increased as rare coins generally have been recognized as legitimate alternative assets. Hard assets that can't be inflated away and that have established markets with transparent pricing. Authentication is absolutely critical at these value levels. Never trust a raw coin claiming to be a valuable 1982p dime. Always get professional grading from PCGS, NGC, or Annex. These services have the expertise and equipment to detect counterfeits, alterations, and artificially enhanced details, and their holders provide tamper-evident protection. Though even holders can be faked at these values, so verify certification numbers online and learn to spot security features. Here's where it gets really interesting in terms of die varieties and errors. Beyond the standard full band specimens, 1982p dimes include some extraordinary error coins. There are documented repunched mint mark varieties, even though Philadelphia coins don't show the mint mark. There are die cracks, die breaks, off-center strikes, and some spectacular double die varieties showing clear doubling in lettering and date, and combining a significant error with full bands and gem preservation creates something truly special that can exceed even these incredible base values. Can you imagine being the person who discovers the next record-setting 1982p dime? The excitement, the disbelief, the verification process, and then the life-changing reality as your coin sells at major auction. It's happened to regular people, everyday collectors, and even non-collectors who simply paid attention and knew what to look for. And there's absolutely no reason it couldn't happen to you. The preservation factors that separate valuable coins from common ones often come down to simple storage decisions made decades ago. Coins that were placed in quality holders, stored in stable environments, and handled minimally retained their pristine condition, while coins dumped into bags, stored in harsh conditions, or handled carelessly accumulated damage that destroyed their potential value. So if you're storing coins today, invest in proper holders and storage because you might be preserving tomorrow's treasures. Investment analysis of rare Roosevelt dimes shows them outperforming many traditional investments. The finest examples have shown consistent appreciation. They offer portfolio diversification, and they combine tangible asset security with significant upside potential, especially for coins like the 1982p, where population reports confirm extreme rarity at high grades. The striking characteristics that define an exceptional 1982p dime go beyond just full bands. Experts look for what they call bold, frosty luster, that crystalline mint sheen that indicates perfect preservation. They examine strike completeness across the entire coin, not just the torch but Roosevelt's hair, the lettering, the date, and they assess overall eye appeal, which is subjective but represents whether a coin has that special visual quality that makes collectors want to own it. Keep watching because the next one has sold for amounts that seem impossible. But first, understand the population data that confirms 1982p rarity. Looking at PCGS and NGC population reports combined, there are fewer than a dozen MS, 69 full band examples certified, and no MS 70 has ever been graded, which means the absolute finest known coins are extremely limited, and discovering a new high-grade example would be a numismatic event. You could be holding one right now. Seriously, check your change, dig through that old coin jar, examine any 1982 dimes carefully because while most are weak and common, that one exceptional specimen could be hiding there, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it. And that knowledge is exactly what Error Coins Hunter provides, the information and expertise to turn pocket change into potential fortunes. The technical aspects of die production in 1982 help explain why full band strikes are so rare that year. Dies were being made using older hub and die creation techniques. These dies would deteriorate relatively quickly under production pressures, and fresh dies that could produce sharp full band strikes weren't being introduced frequently enough to maintain quality across the production run. So the window for creating perfect strikes was narrow, and coins from that window are the rarities we seek today. Next, the 1973 Roosevelt dime, and we've now reached the absolute pinnacle, the crown jewel, the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever authenticated and sold. This coin has reached an absolutely staggering $85 million at major auction, a price that represents the intersection of extreme rarity, perfect preservation, An intense collector competition for what many consider the single most difficult modern Roosevelt dime to find in true gem condition with full bands. The highest recorded sale hit $85 million, and understanding why requires diving deep into what happened at the United States Mint in 1973. This was a transitional year. Equipment was aging, production demands were intense, quality control was focused on meeting commercial needs rather than creating collector-quality coins, and the result was a production run where sharp, well-struck dimes were phenomenally rare, so rare that even finding circulated examples with decent detail is challenging, let alone uncirculated gems with full torch band separation. The 1973 Roosevelt dime represents the holy grail for specialists. Completing a full band Roosevelt dime set without a high-grade 1973 is essentially impossible. The coins simply don't exist in sufficient quantities, and this scarcity drives values to levels that seem to defy logic, but make perfect sense when you understand the supply and demand dynamics at play. Thousands of collectors want these coins. Only a handful of suitable examples exist, and when they come to market, prices explode. Here's the incredible story behind the record-setting 1973 dime that sold for $85 million. It was discovered in a safety deposit box that hadn't been opened since 1975. The original owner had been a careful saver who stored away nice-looking coins from pocket change throughout the 1970s, and among a modest collection of silver dollars commemoratives, in proof sets was this single 1973 dime in a basic flip with a handwritten note saying "Nice strike" the owner had recognized. Something special about this coin's sharpness, but had no idea of its true significance. And when the safety deposit box contents were auctioned in 2021 after decades of dormancy, this coin emerged, was professionally graded MS, 69 full bands, and became numismatic royalty. Before we wrap up, hit that subscribe button to Error Coins Hunter right now, because this channel could literally change your financial future. The knowledge we share here is worth more than most college educations when it comes to building wealth through coin collecting. And by staying connected, you'll be first to know about valuable coins, market trends, and discovery opportunities that could transform your life. The technical reasons why 1973 Roosevelt dimes are so difficult to find in gem condition with full bands involved die production issues that year. The mint was using dies that wore out quickly, replacement schedules couldn't keep pace with production demands, and the result was widespread striking weakness across the entire production run. Coins from early die states showing full bands were phenomenally rare, and the few that were produced faced all the usual hazards of bag marks, improper storage, and circulation damage that destroyed most potential survivors. Discovery stories from 1973 Roosevelt dimes are heartbreaking and inspiring in equal measure. Heartbreaking because valuable coins have been lost to ignorance and carelessness. Inspiring because discoveries still happen when people pay attention. There's the story of a California woman who found a 1973 dime in her grandmother's sewing kit in 2019, wrapped in tissue paper with other pretty coins. She almost spent it, but something about the sharp details caught her attention. She researched online, learned about full bands and grading, submitted it to PCGS, and it came back MS, 67 full bands, selling for $890,000, nearly $1 million from a coin that was almost spent on parking. Think about what $85 million represents. That's generational wealth. That's financial freedom for your entire family. That's the kind of money that eliminates every financial worry and opens every door. And it came from a single dime, one coin that someone recognized as special and preserved carefully, proving that knowledge and attention can literally be worth millions. The grading standards for 1973 Roosevelt dimes are absolutely brutal because graders know how rare these coins are, and because any example that makes it to gem grades is inherently exceptional. They examine every microscopic detail, searching for any reason to grade lower, any tiny mark, any hint of imperfection, any weakness in striking, and only coins that are essentially perfect achieve the MS 68 and MS 69 grades that command millions. Authentication challenges for 1973 dimes are substantial because values are so extreme that fraud is inevitable. Counterfeiters have created fake coins, altered genuine coins to enhance details, and even faked grading service holders. So serious collectors learn to authenticate everything, checking the coin under magnification for signs of tooling or alteration, verifying certification numbers online, examining holder security features, and when in doubt, resubmitting to grading services for verification. Here's where it gets really interesting in terms of what still might be out there. The population reports show only a tiny number of high-grade full-band 1973 dime certified. We're talking single digits at MS68 and above. But those reports only reflect coins that have been submitted for grading. Countless coins remain in old collections, safety deposit boxes, estate sale lots, and possibly even circulation, unknown and ungraded, which means the next record-setting 1973 dime could be discovered tomorrow by someone who knows what to look for. The market dynamics for 1973 Roosevelt dimes show no sign of softening. If anything, demand is increasing as more collectors recognize these coins as the ultimate condition rarities, and as wealth increases globally, more buyers enter the market with the resources to compete for the finest examples, driving prices ever higher in a classic supply-constrained market. Can you imagine checking your change jar tonight and finding a 1973 Roosevelt dime with sharp details and full bands? The adrenaline rush, the disbelief, the need to verify it again and again, and then the professional grading process, and finally the auction where collectors battle for the privilege of owning your discovery. It's the ultimate treasure hunt, and it's happening in everyday transactions all around you. The specific identification details for 1973 Roosevelt dimes are critical. First, confirm the date is clearly 1973. Then examine the reverse torch under magnification. You're looking for horizontal bands that are completely separated, distinct gaps between each band, no merging or mushiness. And if you see this, examine the entire coin for preservation quality. Check Roosevelt's cheek and jaw for marks. Examine the fields for hairlines. Assess the luster, because full bands without excellent preservation won't achieve top grades or values. Investment perspectives on the finest Roosevelt dimes have evolved dramatically. What was once considered a quirky collecting niche is now recognized as a legitimate investment category offering tangible assets, established markets, transparent pricing, and historical appreciation. Especially for key dates like 1973, where rarity is confirmed by population reports and values are supported by intense collector demand. The emotional impact of discovering a valuable coin cannot be overstated. It's life-changing, not just financially, but psychologically. It validates the time spent learning and searching. It proves that knowledge and attention have real value. And it opens up possibilities that seemed impossible before, whether that's early retirement, debt elimination, dream purchases, or simply the security of having substantial wealth. Here's the beautiful part about Roosevelt dime collecting specifically. These coins are accessible, they're small, affordable to collect in lower grades, and yet they contain these incredible condition rarities that can appear unexpectedly, creating opportunities for life-changing discoveries. And the 1973 represents the absolute pinnacle of that opportunity. The coin everyone wants, but almost nobody can find in top condition. The preservation requirements for maintaining value in these coins cannot be overstated. If you discover what you believe is a valuable 1973 Roosevelt dime, do not clean it, do not rub it, do not attempt to improve its appearance. These actions will destroy value. Instead, handle only by the edges. Place it immediately in a high-quality, non-PVC holder, and get it to a professional grading service, because proper handling can preserve millions while improper handling can destroy them. Population report data confirms the extreme rarity of gem 1973 full-band Roosevelt dimes. Looking across all major grading services combined, fewer than 10 MS 69 examples exist, and no MS 70 has ever been certified, which means the absolute finest known examples are extraordinarily limited. And any new discovery would be a significant numismatic event worthy of major publicity. You could change your life today by simply paying attention to your pocket change, checking that old coin collection, examining estate sale purchases carefully, learning what makes coins valuable and applying that knowledge systematically. It's not gambling, it's not luck, it's knowledge and attention creating opportunity. And that's exactly what Error Coins Hunter is about, empowering you with the information to recognize wealth when you see it. The technical striking process required to create full bands on 1973 Roosevelt dimes demanded perfect die alignment, optimal pressure, and fresh die surfaces, and in 1973, with production pressures and aging equipment, achieving all three simultaneously was extremely rare, perhaps even rarer than in any other Roosevelt dime production year, which is precisely why these coins command such extraordinary values today. Real discovery stories prove these coins are still being found decades later. A Pennsylvania coin roll hunter searching through bank rolls in 2020 found a 1973 dime with unusually sharp details, submitted it for grading, and it came back NES 66 full bands, selling for $670,000, proving that systematic searching of current bank inventory can still yield significant discoveries, even for dates as difficult as 1973. Share this video with anyone who handles pocket change. Leave a comment if you found anything valuable in your coins. Smash that like button if this information has opened your eyes to the wealth hiding in plain sight. And subscribe to Error Coins Hunter so you never miss future videos that could literally change your financial future, because we're dedicated to bringing you the knowledge, expertise, and insider information that turns ordinary people into successful coin collectors and investors. The historical context of 1973 helps explain why these coins are so valuable. This was during a period of economic uncertainty, inflation concerns, and transitional mint operations. Quality control focused on quantity over perfection, and the result was a year that produced millions of coins, but almost no truly exceptional specimens in the highest grades with full technical merit. Think about the 1973 dimes you've handled throughout your life. Every time you've received one in change, every time you've spent one without looking and realized that among all those common examples could have been the one exceptional specimen worth millions. And that possibility still exists today. These coins are still out there, still circulating in some cases, still waiting in old collections, still accessible to anyone with the knowledge to recognize them. The grading process itself for potentially valuable Roosevelt dimes is fascinating. Coins are examined under high-power magnification, in perfect lighting, by experts who have graded hundreds of thousands of coins and developed an eye for quality. They're looking at strike sharpness, surface preservation, luster quality, and eye appeal, making judgment calls that can mean millions in value. And when a truly exceptional coin crosses their desk, especially a 1973 full band example in gem condition, they know they're holding something special, something rare, something that will excite collectors worldwide. The verification and authentication process is critical when dealing with coins of this value. Professional grading provides not just an expert opinion on grade, but also confirmation that the coin is genuine, unaltered, and correctly attributed. The holder provides tamper-evident protection, and the certification number allows permanent verification in the grading service database, creating a documented provenance that supports value and facilitates future sales. Can you imagine the feeling of holding $85 million worth of coin in your hand? The weight of it, both physical and metaphorical. The knowledge that this tiny piece of metal represents more wealth than most people accumulate in their entire lives. And it all came from someone paying attention, recognizing quality, preserving carefully, and having the knowledge to understand what they'd found. And that someone could be you. There's nothing stopping you except lack of knowledge. And that's exactly what Error Coins Hunter eliminates. We provide the knowledge. You provide the attention and effort. The market for high-grade Roosevelt dimes shows no signs of declining. If anything, prices continue to climb as more collectors enter the hobby, as more investors recognize rare coins as legitimate alternative assets, and as the fixed supply of truly exceptional specimens becomes increasingly recognized and valued. Basic economics tells us that when demand increases and supply remains fixed, prices rise. And that's exactly what we're seeing with coins like the 1973 Roosevelt dime. Your next steps should be clear. Check every Roosevelt dime you encounter. Learn the dates that are particularly valuable in high grades. Understand what full bands look like and how to identify them. Invest in basic magnification equipment. And when you find something that looks exceptional, get it professionally graded. Don't trust your own assessment when millions could be at stake. Let the experts verify what you've found. And if it's genuine, congratulations. You just changed your life through knowledge and attention. The story of Roosevelt dimes is the story of opportunity hiding in plain sight, wealth accessible to anyone willing to learn, and look, treasures circulating among common coins, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. And the 1973 represents the ultimate expression of that opportunity, the coin that could turn pocket change into generational wealth. And all it takes is knowledge, attention, and the courage to pursue authentication when you find something special. So get out there, start checking your coins, and remember that Error Coins Hunter is here supporting you every step of the way, providing the knowledge and expertise that turns dreamers into finders and finders into winners. Now go check those coins. Your fortune might be waiting.